A perfect marriage. Until that one night. Ethan and Claire had what seemed to be the perfect marriage. 7 years together, a beautiful home, and a love that everyone envied. Ethan, a hard-working architect, spent his days designing skyscrapers, while Claire, a talented artist, brought life to blank canvases. Their love felt unbreakable until that one night shattered everything. It started with a business trip. Ethan had to fly to Chicago for a major project, leaving Claire alone for the weekend. Or so he thought. Late Saturday night, Ethan's flight got canceled due to a storm. Instead of staying in a hotel, he decided to surprise Claire. He wanted to see her face light up, to hold her in his arms unexpectedly. As he drove home, excitement filled his chest. But when he pulled into the driveway, a strange car was parked in his spot. A black BMW, sleek and polished, one he didn't recognize. His heart pounded. Maybe it was one of Claire's friends. Maybe she had company. Still, something felt off. He stepped inside quietly. The lights were dim, candles flickered on the living room table, and soft music played in the background. A bottle of wine, half empty. 2 glasses. Ethan's stomach twisted. Then he heard it. Laughter. Coming from upstairs. Claire's laughter. But she wasn't alone. His world slowed. He moved toward the stairs, every step heavier than the last. He could hear voices now, muffled words, followed by a soft moan. His fingers curled into fists. At the top of the stairs, the bedroom door was slightly open. He pushed it gently, just enough to see inside. And what he saw made his breath catch in his throat. Claire. In their bed. With another man. A man he knew all too well. Ethan froze. His vision blurred as rage and betrayal crashed over him like a tidal wave. His best friend, Ryan, lay in his bed, tangled in the sheets with Claire. The same Ryan who had stood beside him at their wedding, who had toasted to their eternal love, who had always claimed he saw Claire as a sister. And yet, here he was. Claire's head snapped toward the door, her eyes going wide with horror. Ethan. Ryan scrambled to sit up, grabbing the blanket to cover himself, his face drained of color. Dude, I can explain. Ethan didn't want to hear it. His pulse pounded in his ears, drowning out whatever pathetic excuses they were about to spit out. His hands trembled at his sides, clenched so tightly his nails dug into his palms. Explain? Ethan's voice was eerily calm, dangerously quiet. Go ahead, Ryan. Explain how you ended up in my bed with my wife. Claire wrapped the sheets around herself, crawling toward the edge of the bed. Tears welled up in her eyes. Ethan, please, it's not what it looks like. He let out a bitter laugh. Oh, really? Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like my wife and my best friend decided to betray me in the worst possible way. Ryan ran a hand through his messy hair, his jaw tightening. Man, it happened. We didn't plan this, I swear. It was a mistake. A mistake. Ethan's fists unclenched, only for his entire body to stiffen. A mistake. You don't just accidentally end up in bed with someone, Ethan hissed. His voice was shaking now, his rage barely contained. How long? Claire sobbed. Ethan, please. How long? He roared, his voice echoing through the room. Silence. Then, a whisper. 6 months. Ethan stumbled back as if she had physically struck him. The air in his lungs turned to stone. 6 months. Half a year. While he had been working late nights, pushing himself to build a better life for them, they had been doing this. He had given Claire everything. His love, his trust, his devotion. And she had thrown it all away. Ryan stood up slowly, hands raised. Ethan, man, get out. Ryan hesitated. Ethan, come on, let's talk about this. Ethan took a threatening step forward. I said get out. Before I do something I regret. Ryan grabbed his clothes and rushed past him, disappearing down the hallway. Ethan turned to Claire, who was now sobbing uncontrollably. "Ethan, please, I made a mistake. I love you." He shook his head, his voice hollow. "No, Claire. You don't love me. Because love isn't betrayal. Love isn't this." For the first time in his life, he felt nothing for her. Just emptiness. He stepped back, turned around, and walked away. And he never looked back. Ethan walked out of the bedroom, his body moving on autopilot. His mind was a storm, torn between rage, heartbreak, and a creeping numbness that threatened to consume him entirely. The hallway felt longer than usual, every step heavy, his breathing ragged. He didn't know where he was going, just that he needed to get out before the weight of what he had just witnessed crushed him completely. Claire's voice rang out behind him, desperate and broken. "Ethan! Please, don't go. Let's talk about this." "Talk? Talk?" He whirled around, eyes burning. "You want to talk now? After you spent 6 months sneaking around behind my back? What exactly is there to talk about, Claire?" She clutched the sheet around her, stepping toward him as tears streamed down her face. "It wasn't supposed to happen. I swear, I never meant to hurt you." Ethan let out a bitter, humorless laugh. "Oh, you never meant to hurt me? That makes it better, huh? That makes it okay?" His jaw clenched so hard it ached. "You didn't just hurt me, Claire. You destroyed me." Her lip trembled. "I love you." Something inside him snapped. His hands curled into fists at his sides. He was so damn tired of those words being thrown around like they meant something. "No. You don't." His voice was steel, cold and unforgiving. "Because if you loved me, you wouldn't have betrayed me. You love the way I treated you. You love the security I gave you. But you don't love me." Claire shook her head violently, sobbing harder now. "That's not true. I swear, I never stopped loving you. I just got lost. Ryan was there when you weren't, and..." Ethan took a slow step forward, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Don't you dare." She flinched. He exhaled sharply, his hands shaking with barely contained rage. "I was out there breaking my back, working overtime, making sure we had a good life. And while I was doing that, you were in our bed, our bed, with my best friend." Claire buried her face in her hands. I know, I messed up. But please, Ethan, we can fix this." Ethan's vision blurred with fury. "No, Claire. You messed up. And we can't fix anything." He shook his head, swallowing down the lump in his throat. "There is no we anymore." For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. The air between them was suffocating. Then Claire reached out, her voice trembling. "Please, don't leave me." Ethan stared at her, at the woman he had once planned his entire future with. He used to think she was his world. Now, she was just a stranger. Without another word, he turned on his heel and walked away. And this time, he wasn't coming back. The final goodbye. Ethan walked out of the house, the cold night air hitting him like a wave of reality. The weight of what had just happened settled deep in his chest, suffocating, crushing, but he refused to let it break him. Not anymore. His hands were shaking as he pulled out his car keys. His car, parked in the driveway, felt like the only thing in the world that belonged to him now. Everything else, his home, his memories, his marriage, had been tainted by betrayal. As he reached for the door handle, he heard footsteps behind him. Claire's voice, choked with sobs, cut through the silence. "Ethan! Please! Just talk to me." He didn't turn around. He couldn't. His knuckles turned white around the keys as he took a deep breath. "Calm. Stay calm." Finally, he spoke. His voice was low, but firm. "There's nothing left to say." Claire's breath hitched. What about us? Ethan let out a bitter chuckle. There's no us anymore, Claire. Silence. For the first time, she had no excuse, no desperate plea. Just silence. He opened the car door and slid inside, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing holding him together. His heart was pounding. He didn't know where he was going, just that he needed to go. As he started the engine, he finally turned to look at her one last time. Claire stood there on the porch, wrapped in nothing but a sheet, her mascara running down her cheeks. She looked broken. But Ethan wasn't going to fix her this time. With one last deep breath, he pressed down on the gas and pulled away from the house. From the lies. From the pain. From her. And as he drove down that dark, empty road, he realized something. He wasn't just leaving Claire. He was finally free.